I'm like, you just gotta love on the text sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Love on technology. And woosah. And wear good lipstick. That seems to work out a lot of things. Oh. All right. Good morning, everyone, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. But welcome to today's Eat and Greets Hour. We're a little late. Mercury shadow. We got to work with it, right? Hopefully today, as we're getting going, we're going to give you something as worth the time you took to show up. And I definitely think that we will. This is a great topic. So I've got Miss Nia Boaz Flyer here with me. Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure being here. It's a pleasure that you've actually asked me over. I'm so glad.
Oh my gosh, it was inevitable. It was inevitable. You have the Taurus beacon of calling to me. So it was inevitable.
I'm glad that we met, Madame Stormy Grace. Really am. We've had this long talk before going online. So, if I could, I'm extending a virtual hug, I'm very happy that I'm here. Yeah.
I'm thrilled to have you. And where are you at? Where are you at in the world?
I'm in a city called Ramat Gan. It's by Tel Aviv, which is on the coast of Israel. So right now it's sunset. The sun is setting. And yeah.
Oh my gosh. And over here, we're just past sunrise, sunrising where I'm at, and it is loaded with snow today. It's a complete snow day. Our city is quite quiet today.
Where are you at, Stormy?
In Colorado.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, we do snow.
Yeah, yes, you do snow, definitely. Here, Israel is very small. You could drive from one side of it to the other side. It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours by car on the narrow side. And on the longer side, it's about 7 hours by car. And the thing is that on one side it snows and it's like a little Switzerland. And on the other side, it's complete desert. It's like Arabia, so you have all this climatic change between, which is beautiful.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's like life, right?
Yeah, it's an amazing place. I just wish it would be more peaceful.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I know, but you look like you are making your way.
Peace is within, first of all. And I think that we all have a role to play in creating the reality that we want to see. I think it's no mistake that we're sitting here breathing right now. I think that we're like elite troops, handpicked to be alive from all the human souls of all the generations ever to be in this very important time for humanity, maybe the most important time for humanity. I mean, it isn't a mistake that we're sitting here talking right now. And indeed, we're all droplets in an ocean. I'm saying it often. But these droplets make up the currents, they make up the waves, they make the tsunami that breaks the shores and shapes them. So we need to understand that unity is our calling right now. Nobody has a dominion over the truth or over land or over God or over anything. It's a live and let live world.
Brilliant. Oh my gosh. Well, and it's interesting, that we're getting together today to talk about a topic that I don't see discussed a lot in the live and let live world. But inside, this also creates an energetic marker.
True.
So today, I'm so pumped. We're going to discuss death charts today. And I'm just so thrilled to see and to bring your perspective on what you have to offer to that. So we'll get to that in just 1 minute. But before we do, everybody, yes, the Kickstarter is still going. You can find the link in the description box down below. And I will tell you, I'm in an innovative space, my friends, and I have created an addition to this particular Kickstarter. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and I'll give you more details later in the week. But for now, oh my gosh, let's get into this, because I will tell you, when I realized the importance of death charts was actually quite by accident. You know what happened? I was teaching a class, And I pulled up Marilyn Monroe's chart and we were studying that and it was very exciting. And then I had pulled up her death chart because I just created it to talk about the date. And then I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, this chart at this time in this place left a stamp of so many events that happened after that and the life that she still has today on this planet after death.
Exactly.
So it was quite by accident that I realized they were significant. And so how did you find out about them?
Well, I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart in the first place. So I guess death, the other side, and what happens to the soul after we depart from our body has always been a subject of interest, even before my interest in astrology particularly. And partly because in my life, I had experiences that took my belief in an afterlife to a stage of knowledge that there is an afterlife. I mean, you could sit in your beautiful artistic room and sip this amazing mug, and you can tell me about the amazing elixir in your cup, Stormy. And you could tell me its color, and you could tell me its taste and its texture, and the way it makes you feel once you swallow it, and I'll believe you. But I wouldn't know it to be true until I hold the same cup and drink from the same elixir and actually sense it in my physical being. That's the difference between believing and knowing. It's actually having a physical experience, a sensual experience. So in my childhood, I've had experiences that took this belief in an afterlife to acknowledge that there is an afterlife. And that enabled me to surrender to it, to say, okay, maybe you're afraid of it, but nevertheless, if this is so, let's surrender to it. Let's give it service. Let's study it and align according to it. So, and then I met Maurice Fernandez, my teacher to this day, and he actually, as a student of his, he's interested in death charts, and my beginning was through Maurice. Maurice brought that interest up in me. And he still has this interest, and I do, and I wish we all would, because as you said, this is a subject we shy away from, and I'm talking about why we shy away from it in the presentation.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm really excited to share what you have, and I want to just take a quick minute to also welcome some of the new friends that we see in the chat, and I believe there may be students or friends of yours as well, but I just want to say welcome, 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 and thank you for being here, and good morning to the Astrology Soulmate family. It is so beautiful to be in the saddle with each other again. So let's see what you've got for us. I think I made you co-host, so I think we're good to go if you're ready.
Wunderbar, wunderbar. So here we go. Everybody sees my screen?
Yes.
Cool. So at the beginning, I always thank Maurice. As I said, this lecture is based on Maurice's teachings, subjects, and idioms I was first exposed to in his classes and writings. This is his site. I highly recommend it. He's an amazing teacher. So what is a natal chart in evolutionary astrology? Not a death chart, just any natal chart. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, if I didn't say anything about that before. A snapshot, a moment in the river of time, right? And it provides us with a portrait of one's character and orientation, if you will, a curriculum vitae of the soul's past resume from an evolutionary standpoint. In the chart, we can identify what the soul has dragged into existence on this plane, on both the conscious and unconscious levels, from its continued journey of evolution through many lifetimes. The talk today is primarily oriented to ignite interest in the subject. I want you to start studying this, all of you, and not shy away from it, not be afraid to actually expose yourself to it. I hope that by the end of this talk, you would be interested enough so you would explore death charts yourselves with the passing of loved ones, important people in our lives, processes or stages. I mean, I've gathered since this talk started to go out a few years back, there's a lot of information that people have gathered together regarding death charts. And today we're going to be exploring some of it. So I ask you, if we believe as astrologers that the moment of the entry of the soul into this world is so important, how can we not think that the moment it leaves this world to be as important? So part of it is because naturally we cannot do our own death charts. Neither can we do our clients' death charts in front of them, at least, you know? Why then should we even waste our time casting and analyzing death charts? Well, don't take the easy way out. I believe the answer lays in the fact that we are afraid of death and subconsciously stay away from dealing with it, hoping that that would postpone it in some way. But the kiss of death would come to us all, you know? Maybe not always, but definitely I think that the how we treat death is going to change.
And I definitely think this is different in the United States. We were just having this conversation yesterday that in the United States, we definitely take a different view on discussing death. That is not as much of this life is a part of death. It's a known, but we don't talk about that. Yeah. Not in the same way that other cultures do.
That's true. It can even be considered unpolite.
Yes.
And that's something that is American and European as well. We can see the same thing in Canada sometimes, but when we go to more traditional indigenous cultures, death is definitely a part of life. And if we take to the Native American culture, a good death is as important as a good life. Yeah. And today is a good day to die, as we all know, you know. Living life fearlessly is an important quest as living a long life. Is death the end? No. The change called death is not a finite one, but a portal, an ending of one life cycle before the beginning of another, a rejoining with the source from which we came. The moment of death holds great significance, just like the moment of birth, telling a story of how we died, how we lived, and where we're heading on the soul level, as well as what is, as Stormy stated, to be remembered after us. We deal with death all the time. When this talk will end, it will be the death of this talk. Does it mean there will never be more talks? No. Just that in order for another one to take place, this one must end. And that when it ends, there will never be another one quite like it ever again for all of eternity. Death charts, in the broader sense, can be charts that are cast for the endings of things in your life, an ending of your relationship, a closing down of a business, any chapter, or any completion of a major stage or process in you or your kin's life. And today, I deal with death charts all the time. In fact, I'm going to share with you a death chart of a woman, a client, without her name, of course, of yesterday, okay? From just yesterday. Some more points about evolutionary astrology. Besides the regular symbolic meaning of Neptune, creativity, spirituality, fantasy, and so on, we see Neptune as God, a goddess, the divine, everything wild and not within our grasp and control. We see it as the public, the populace, the proletarian. And we also see the 12 Neptune and Pisces as the memory of unity and the trauma of the partition from the source, as a place where we have the most acute feeling of a paradise lost. And we always see a correlation between the house, the sign, and the archetype. So, do you recognize Winston?
Winston, look at those eyebrows. How could you not be recognized with those face thingies?
Well, this is Winston Ono Lennon, or John Lennon. And this is how he would have looked if he would have been alive today. That's an artistic depiction with this turtleneck. And this is John's natal chart. John was born with, in evolutionary astrology, we take great significance to the nodes. The south node as signifying where the soul came forth from and where this life started, and the north node, what it needs to complete this time around, in a sense. And we try to seek a balance between the nodes. Going too much to the north is a dire problem is staying in the south. So he comes from the proletarian, he comes from the seafaring people of Liverpool, working the ship docks, the 12th house, a blue-collar family, not a lot of rules, not a lot of boundaries. Father lost at sea for many years. Mother not very stable, not very functional. He understands he needs to save his own life, take the future into his own hands with this Aries spirit. Becomes an angry person, basically thrown out of every school and place is brought into. And eventually we see this North Node in the 6th house of service, of healing, of mending, of social work, conjunct the sun. And we always say people with the sun conjunct the North Node, this is your time to shine. There's something about your message that is important to the world, not just to yourself. In Libra, cooperation. I'm not going to analyze this whole chart because we don't have the time. But I want to show you the death chart. But before I do, what should we look to in death charts? So first of all, recurring patterns from the birth chart to the death charts. Similar signatures, similar degrees, houses, and so on and so forth. Many times the nodes play a significant part. The luminaries, as well as fast-pacing planet. While the slower ones provide the general undertone of the whole period, it would be the faster ones that actually trigger death. So we can find Pluto or Chiron transiting a very challenging position in regard to the natal chart, but that would take a very long time. It would be the moon, the sun, Mars that would trigger the moment of death. Jupiter is also known for releasing, for freeing the soul from the body. This is John Lennon's death charts. I want you to see the reversal of the nodes. Now the North Node is in the 12th, and the South Node is in the 6th. That's not such a good sign. He was born with the same conjunction in the 1st house, just in a different sign. These are the two charts.
Oh.
These are the two charts. And I don't know if I have them together here. Yes.
Yeah.
So we can see Chiron transiting over this Jupiter-Saturn the whole period. We can see the same Jupiter-Saturn going over his North Node and close to his sun. We see Pluto on the descendant for a long time. But it was Mars squaring the sun and the nodes with the moon that brought this this death this time around.
Wow. So the moon would have acted as a
yes,
trigger?
Definitely. Moon Mars. I mean, there's no real formula that we can take and say this would cause death, but we can always see these planets playing part. This is Abe Lincoln, okay?
Can I just ask you this really quick, just pure curiosity on Lennon's chart? Because he had that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in the natal, and then we look at it in the death chart, and we just experience Jupiter-Saturn, and it's like, I feel like these are like great things. Like you do great things. They're known great things.
Right.
So is that important?
We see it in a lot of great people, great thinkers, and people that their karma and dharma are intertwined in a way. They have a lot of karma, a big career, and yeah, it's like the Saturnian. I have another talk about the interplay of Saturn and Jupiter, karma and dharma in our charts, and when they're conjunct.
So you'll be back, is what you're saying.
I'd love to.
Okay.
I'd love to. Abe Lincoln. So we're not going to do the whole chart, okay? I want you to look at the nodes real quick. We can see the nodes in the 6th degree north node of Scorpio, conjunct Uranus, and this is the death chart. We can see that the nodes have done almost a full return. If we put the two charts together, we can see it much more clearly. Whenever the nodes return as they do like this, it happens every 18 and a half years, almost 19 years.
Yeah.
This is the ending of a period. This is the ending of a cycle. And we see that more people live this earth when the nodes are reversed or when the nodes are aligned. Very much like the luminaries. When we have a solar return, there are more cases of death. We die near our birthdays. So when we talk about the axis of the soul, we find that a lot of people leave this earth or finish big cycles when the nodes are aligned, or either when they are reversed. And if they are reversed, usually it wasn't them that ended it. In this case, Lincoln was shot, but we can say that what he brought, what he needed to bring to this world, he did.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in the death chart, he's died under a mystic rectangle. I mean, that would have been significant for all of us.
Yeah.
It's so good. I mean, it's like terrible, but so good,
I was preparing for this talk, and I was looking again at the death of Linda McCartney and how it affected the marriage of Paul and Linda. And we're going to see it later. And it's exactly what you said. It's terrible, but it's so good.
Yeah.
So here we can see Saturn hovering for a long time over Mars. But it was the sun opposing Mars to trigger the shot. And of course, squaring the natal moon. So creating a T-square between Mars and the natal moon.
Gosh, and that Saturn is so serious, just like the weight of the moon.
The weight and the karma.
Yeah.
Because, we look at Abraham Lincoln as a great savior for the Black people, in a sense, emancipating the Black slaves. And that is something that he would always be remembered for. But on the contrary, for Native Americans, Abraham Lincoln is considered not a savior, but a tyrant, a betrayer, and a terrible plague. Because in his time, a lot of the massacres that finally changed the picture for the Native American took place. So he was very open-minded regarding the Black man and the Black woman, but not so much for the Native Americans. So we can still see that he died with a lot of karma.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, we're never finished. We're never finished. Every time we step up a notch, we understand we're in the middle of the staircase. And only when our morality steps up a notch are we able to understand that this isn't the end of the journey. That there's more morality for us to grasp. There's more ethics for us to gain. John Wilkes Booth, nationalist, patriot, killer, hunted down for a few days, finally brought to a gun battle while he was hiding in a shack, and he was killed. In his case, the nodes are reversed. He did not succeed in bringing what he needed to bring to this world. We can see the moon going over the sun. We can see the sun going over Mars. as trigger points. And of course, this is across from the natal moon and from natal Saturn in Scorpio. Let's go on to Adolf.
Well, we have a question for you just really quickly.
Sure.
So the question is, he says that this might be a strange question to ask, but are there similar astrological influences behind actual tragic accidents?
Yes, we would see Pluto involved. It depends on the nature of the accidents. Accidents are Mars, accidents are Mercury, especially if it's car accident and it's Mars Mercury. And Pluto would be more like tragedies, traumas on a grander scale.
Sure. Oh, and in Wilkes' chart, that Pluto was real close to the IC, huh?
Sorry,
Wow.
in which chart?
In
Wilkes?
In Wilkes, in his death chart.
Yeah.
Is that right? Did I see
Yeah.
that? Yeah. Because that was a tragedy for sure. The whole thing, perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so another guy in charge of a lot of suffering, and we can see his birth chart and his death chart. Also died with Saturn in Cancer on his north node, so we know he's going to have a lot of karma as well. He was born with a south node in Capricorn, so karma was there in the first place. But when we look at the death chart and the birth chart, we can see the nodes aligned.
Wow. So he did it himself, huh?
He did what he was supposed to do this time around. So we can see evil. Evil has a destiny as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a hard concept for people to hear, that the bad has a place.
Yeah, and it's like this old Chinese folklore tale of the Chinese peasant that had only one boy and one horse, and all the neighborhood used to say, what a poor guy, he has only one boy and one horse, and they barely can grow enough food from themselves. And one day the horse ran away. So all the neighbors came to the man and said, oh, you have such bad luck, what happened to the horse? What would you do now? He said, I don't know, we should wait. A few days later, the horse came back with a female horse, a mare. Everybody said, that's amazing luck. Now we have two horses. He said, well, I don't know, we have to wait. His son tried to break the horse, the mare, and she threw him off her back, and he broke his leg. All of the neighbors said, wow, that's a tragedy. Now you can't use him for working. He said, well, I don't know, we have to wait. And a few days later, the army went through the village, drafting every able man to the front line. And of course, he was laying in bed with a broken leg. They didn't take him. Everybody came, wow, so lucky. He said, well, I don't know, we should wait. So this is luck for you. Only because of the tragedy of the Holocaust did we have such a lasting peace for the last 60 years, 70 years. Only because of the tragedy of the Holocaust am I sitting here in Israel talking to you. So
yeah. And
bad is intertwined with good.
If you had watched Hitler early in his career, if you know anything about the history, early on in his career and his being, there was a lot that you wouldn't have picked out that it would have ended this way.
Definitely. He was an artist. He was a hopeful artist.
And innovative. It was super innovative with things that he did, but it was
amazing.
Yeah. Oh.
And he's still considered one of the greatest speakers of the 20th century. He could inflame the masses. Okay. Now I want to go back, and we can see that this is something that came from his past life. He came to that life with the gifts of communication, with the moon, Jupiter, in Capricorn in the third house. He already employed the tools to talk to the masses and inflame them. But back to the death chart, the nodes are aligned. We can see Saturn on Chiron. We can see that he just had his solar return 9 days prior. He has his Mercury return coming up. So a lot of cycles are ending. Excuse me. For him, this was an exit point. This was an exit point. JFK, the beautiful JFK, we have his birth chart and death chart. And guess what? The nodes are reversed.
Wow.
Unfortunately, in JFK's case, he died too soon. He wasn't able to bring the full message, the full light, to go through the full cycle that he was supposed to go through. We can see Mercury opposing the Sun, Sun coming to an opposition with the Sun, opposing Mercury and Jupiter, natal Mercury and Jupiter and Mars in the 8th. We can see Pluto hovering for a long time over the natal moon. And we can see Saturn squaring exactly that Mars Mercury in the 8th, along with the moon. He was actually alerted by an astrologer that if he would go to Dallas, he would die. She was interrogated by the FBI after his death as a suspected collaborator.
Sure. She's like,
Yeah.
I just looked at the chart.
Yeah, right, girl. Come with us.
At that time, that was not going to be cool at all. It was not going to go over kindly.
Mm-mm. This is Shimon Peres. I don't know if all of you know him. He's an amazing statesman. He's the father of the peace process in Israel, the Oslo Accords, a real knight of, humanity in the politic scene.
He is working that cigarette. Look at him.
So, yeah.
Pure confidence. He's like, this is where I'm at.
He's passed away already. He was a president. And as I was going through the charts for today, I had to put this up because, again, it was so literal. He was born with the North Node in the 11th degree of Virgo, conjunct Mercury and Virgo in the first house. He died with the nodes in the 12th degree in the first house, conjunct Mercury again. So complete alignment with Mercury. We can see the Sun going with Jupiter over the Moon and Saturn. We can see the Moon going over the Ascendant and over the Sun. And we can see Saturn squaring the natal nodes for a long period of time. But this is the exact square, the time of death.
It's just so wild to see this, to see what it looks like. And
it doesn't happen in every chart, but since, like I saw it, it happens with a lot of great people. And this is Linda and Paul and their dog. This is Linda's chart. This is Linda's death. And I brought these charts not necessarily to look at Linda's death. We can see the nodes are almost aligned. We can see Chiron hovering over this moon in Scorpio. She died out of breast cancer, moon in Scorpio. Conjunct Venus for a long time. We can see Pluto entering the second house of the body. But it was this threesome, I think, that was, Of course, the moon is squaring the sun exactly at the time of death, which is a trigger, but also this threesome, the sun going over the Mars, with
Yeah, and Aries.
Saturn.
It's Aries,
So,
huh?
all in Aries, all in the sixth.
Yeah.
So the house of disease. So I think these were the trigger points. But I wanted you to broaden, I want to broaden the sheet and say, let's look in the middle chart on the date of the marriage of Paul and Linda, the day they married, okay? And then on the moment of death on the outer chart. So here it's just amazing, the calibration. Like you said, it's terrible, but it's so good. It's profound. First of all, we see Jupiter and Venus in Pisces on the ascendant going over the sun and the North Node. It's like the love and the idealism and, the release is palatable,
Right.
And then we have the lunar return. The same hours we have the lunar return, which is a great sign of alignment as well. We have an exact, to the degree, and almost a minute Saturn return, terminating this marriage. We have the sun going over Venus together with Mars in the second house. I mean, it's just beautiful.
It is. This is so interesting to just, even looking from the perspective of just the marriage to the death. And I mean, to be able to see it, there's some stuff going on in the chat here where people are talking about, calculating endings of things that they had in their life and going back to get it. And I think
now I'm going to really take you down the rabbit hole.
Oh, okay. Rabbit
really
hole.
Taking you down the rabbit hole. Look, when I was preparing for this, so just, I was thinking of all kinds of other things. So like I said, okay, Paul McCartney de facto was the one that announced on the 10th of April, 1970 to the press that he's not in the Beatles anymore. And that was the time that the Beatles were officially considered, departed. They broke up after almost 10 years. So I said, let's see how the moment of a breakup talks with Paul's chart. And guess what we find out? The nodes are not aligned, they're reversed.
Oh.
So I'm not sure, that if we would come up to Sir Paul McCartney today, when even he fully recognizes what the Beatles were and are for popular culture and music in the 20th century, that he would have felt that he made the right decision then and there, because maybe they could have overgrown their egos, or grow over their egos, like past that ego contest that they had between Paul and John, and stay together. And then maybe John wouldn't even have been killed, because he would have been busy working on the next album for the Beatles, recording it somewhere, not at home. So we don't know how it would have affected the timeline, but we can definitely see how, again, there's a Venus return together with Saturn here, and Mars, and Mercury. This is a very strong Venus.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And I think about the story of how, a big portion of what they talk about in terms of the breakup was Yoko. That they were like, stop bringing her here, How strong, Yoko was in the mix enough to.
Yoko is the one that is responsible, not for the breakup of the Beatles, but for the creation of the John Lennon that we know and love today. Because John, was an asshole before he met Yoko. And Imagine was written by Yoko as much as it was by John, admitted by John later on. And it was from her that he gathered this whole idea of imagination. It was her she was an artist, an avant-garde artist, and he came to her exhibition in New York, dealing with imagination. That's how he fell in love with her. So a lot of the ideas that we know John for today is Yoko.
Yeah. So we have a question for you.
Sure.
Okay. It says, what does it mean if we have a transit and we don't die? Does that mean it's time to do something different? I think that's an interesting question.
Well, first of all, I want to state very clearly that we cannot foretell death. Even in Vedic astrology, where if you go to a traditional Vedic astrologer, he would give you your moment of death. He would say with the same sentence that if you want to avoid that death, stay at home that day, give some money to the clerics in the temple, that they would do a puja ceremony and postpone that karma. This is ingrained in the religion and tradition. In this day and age, we are in charge of our future. We can't have a formula for death. What it means is that it ain't over for you and that the story goes on. And yes, that there's a new chapter opening. And it's a daily plebiscite what we do here.
Yeah. Well, and I think that anytime we stop and we contemplate death, if it urges us to live more deeply, do that.
Definitely. And live better and bravely and more bravely, and definitely. So this is Diana's chart, Princess Diana.
I love her.
I love her too. Strong North Node here. This is her death chart. Here we can see that the nodes are not aligned. We can see Mercury going over Pluto with the Sun and Mars. She died in a car accident. So here we have the combination of Mars, Mercury, Pluto. We have the natal, we have the transiting moon going over the North Node. This all is squared by Pluto hovering there for a long time. Squaring the nodes, squaring Mars, squaring Pluto. We have Mars going over Neptune over these days.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I've seen her birth and death chart so many times, and I don't know about you, but the sense that I have always gotten from the first time I looked at it was she could have survived. I don't know if you've ever sensed. I
got the sense that this wasn't, that this wasn't an accident in a way.
Yeah. And I just, I think about that, that Pluto there in Sag. I'm like, it's like a limbo. I feel like that's the limbo piece, that it was like, hold on, one action in here, and we might have had a very different scenario, but it created like a limbo. And I've sensed that every single time. So I just think
it's a bit like Marilyn Monroe's death. There's an eeriness there that is unsettling.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And look at the moon opposing the moon, the same degree.
Mm-hmm.
Same degree. That's a Saturnian aspect in opposition. It's like putting Saturn between the two moons.
Mm.
Or at least that's how the ancients foretold it would be. But we don't have to use people. We can use businesses, we can use buildings. Let's take the World Trade Center. Rest in peace, the old one. And I was there in Manhattan in September 11, 2001, when it happened. So I remember the smell in the air. And I'll never forget it. This is the unveiling of the World Trade Center design back in 18th of January, 64, in a press conference in Manhattan. This is a sun-on first chart, since we don't know the exact time of the press conference. Nevertheless, the houses are potent.
Yeah.
You see the world, 12th house, South Node, trade, Mercury, center for business, Capricorn, eventually finishing as something in the 6th house of a national significance, of an emotional significance. The extension of Cancer, the family, is the nation. Sixth house is about amendment. We can see Jupiter in the third house of commerce and communication, squaring the nodes. You can see that the eighth house of death, we find Uranus conjunct Pluto, death from the sky, opposing the natal moon and Chiron. Let's look at September 11, 2001.
We've got another mystic rectangle. Look at that. Huge for the world.
Yeah. Yeah. We have Mercury on the ascendant. We have Jupiter on the midheaven, Mars on the south node. But when we put these two together, we get an understanding that this isn't trivial. The nodes are aligned. The Jupiter is on the same degree of the north node, releasing from the present form. Mars coming up on Mercury and the sun moving over that death from the sky, death from above.
Wow. It's so much to take in to look at these the moment, but it's beautiful.
So that's about it. We can find, I promised you a client from yesterday, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
It's a woman very dear to me, and she's been working for Israel's biggest credit company as one of their top shots for the last 15 years or so, a bit more. And she was oriented to be part of the management. The job was offered for life, very high paid, and she decided to go into therapy and to actually retire from that job. And she did that yesterday. And she asked me about it. And I opened up the chart immediately, and this is what I saw.
Oh, wow.
So it's not only a nodal return, it's also, she has natally the moon on the north node, and the moon on the north node to the degree when she signed the retirement. To the degree.
Yeah.
So indeed, it's a new month for her and a new chapter. And we can see the Sun, Jupiter, Saturn here, opposing her natal chart. And, you know, when we choose a new road, it's not any less challenging, maybe even more so, but it's much more gratifying to go after our soul and destiny than it is to give up on it.
Yeah. This is beautiful that you're sharing this, though, and it kind of makes me excited because last night I was sitting here doing the ending chart for the Kickstarter. And I was like, all right.
And that's a death chart.
Yeah. I'm like, when does this end? And then what is our timing for the new birth? But it was interesting to see it from two different perspectives, two different death dates, essentially. And I was like, one, they're just different. They're just different.
That's how we can choose a good death for the ending of a project.
Yes.
You know, death is something to work with. It's just another stage in the cyclic motion we're all part of.
You're just beautiful, and
you're beautiful. Thank you for having me. If any of you want to have more information, you could look me up on Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr, Instagram, Profiler Astrology, Evolutionary Astrology Forecast. This is my number, free on WhatsApp. And my site is it's not updated. I'm actually looking for somebody to help me update it and bring it up.
Did y'all hear that? Job opportunity.
Yeah, job opportunity. So if you're a webmaster with a lot of skills, or if you're tech savvy and have all these skills, contact me. Here are my details. And basically, I hope you enjoyed it. And may you all live long and prosper.
Love it. I still can't do that. Oh my God, it hurts.
Yeah. It's part of the cleric blessing that the clerics would give the people, the Hebrew people, in front of the temple 3 times a year. That's where Leonard Nimoy took it from. It's actually a Jewish sign.
And this is why I'm just American and that's it. You know,
well, you have some Jew in you. Yeah, if you can do that.
Yeah. Well, and my grandmother was Jewish, blonde hair, blue eyes.
There you go. I knew it.
All right, my beautiful friends. Thank you so much for showing up and taking some time with us today. And hopefully we gave you something that is worth the time you took to show up. You've been beautiful in the chat. If you're new here, thank you so much for showing up. If you've been here 100 million times, I love you. Thank you for continuing to show up. Go check out Miss Nia. You've got all of her information, and I will also make sure that it is in the description box down below. And absolutely, girl, we're trying to have you back because people were like, yes, come back and talk about that.
Collaboration with you is something I enjoy tremendously.
Yes. Well, and if it's okay for me to slide this in here, with the Kickstarter, you have also offered to come on board.
I did, and I'm standing behind that offer.
Y'all, it's too good. This is going to be big. This is going to be big.
Amen to that. Amen to that, because I think this is actually going to make a change, a significant change for a lot of people. Because that's the #1 problem with astrology, that it costs so much to study it, and we study it for so many years.
Oh my gosh, I know. Well, and it's so beautiful because with the Kickstarter, all of our students who've been studying for years and years and years now have an opportunity to take on a paid teaching assistant position, apply your astrological knowledge, and let's get you some funds for it. You've been studying for a long time, just like the rest of us, right?
Right.
It's beautiful.
Right. That's actually something that I've been talking with some of my students, that now when I'm updating my site, I was offered help by some of them. I said, listen, I'm not willing to get any of your help if you're not willing to be up there on the site as well. You know, maybe my availability is limited and people could choose you. You know, okay, you don't have so much experience, but how would you get it if you're not putting yourself out there? So I think we are in an age that the richest person wouldn't be a person that has the largest bank account, because that wouldn't save you. The person that has the largest network of souls who love them and interact with them, that is part of a community that is fruitful and rich, would be the richest person.
I couldn't agree with you more. Oh, Nia, thank you so much again for coming. I look forward to having you back. Absolutely. All right, my beautiful friends, we're going to wrap it up, and we will see you. We'll actually see you next week when we will eat and greet, but there's plenty going on the channel this week, so stay tuned. There will be another little live session coming up. And I've also got an interview with Rick Levine to share with you guys as well. So thank you so much. I love you guys. Oh my God, I know. Isn't he fabulous? Sometimes I listen to him
and he actually really helped me with one of my lectures, and I did a workshop with him. I just adore the guy.
He's fabulous. All right, beautiful friends, I love you. And